Good morning, Internet. I got a really early start this morning. It's 8:06. I'm not sure why I'm this early. Maybe because I have 3 working days. 3 working days, and the earlier I get these done, the earlier I can come home on Wednesday and do the last minute preparations for Vegas, whatever those might be. Holy cow! I'm doing my new shortened vlog routine. And today's going to be really short because the traffic's really light, obviously, this early in the morning. But I listened to NPR for the first part of the drive, and then I'll turn on the camera and vlog. But one of the story that they just ran, and I wasn't like paying very close attention, or maybe they left this detail out. I think it's like a company that might own a bunch of news stations, or TV stations rather. They're suing, or they have a contract dispute with Dish Networks over the Hopper, and I'm sure you've probably heard that commercial. At least if you're a TV watcher in the U.S. For you selective. Rob, I guess you might not have heard of it either. But it's the Hopper is a multi-room DVR provided by Dish Networks that has that TiVo functionality where it automatically skips commercials. Whereas standard DVRs, you have to fast forward through the commercials and keep an eagle eye on it so you know when to stop. The Hopper apparently skips them automatically. So what's interesting is that these TV stations, this dispute is over the fact and it was funny that they didn't really spell that out in the story, but obviously, if the local TV stations if Dish customers aren't watching the commercials to the local TV stations, the local TV stations are not fulfilling their commitment to their advertisers. What have I been saying? So, yeah, that was interesting, and it's just gonna keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This issue of broadcast television dying. And I say broadcast television, and I don't, that's another phrase for network television versus cable. But really, when I say broadcast television, I mean the TV that goes over the airwaves or cable or satellite that you watch on your big screen TV through traditional providers. Versus, these would be the new definitions. Maybe it's just traditional television. Ad-supported, that should be it. Ad-supported television. But that's not entirely true, because Netflix and Hulu, I mean, for all intents and purposes, those are TV programs. They are, actually, Netflix isn't ad-supported. Netflix is very strictly user subscription supported. But Hulu and then YouTube, whatever TV programs wind up on YouTube, those certainly are ad-supported. But, yeah, traditional ad-supported television versus internet TV. That should be the new definition. I talked to my mom last night, and she brought that up. She said she had met, in her travels, Grip for something, and just was, like, talking up his name-dropping and being all egotistical and, look at me, I'm Mr. Fancy Pants. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking Grip. Get over yourself. Yeah, and apparently he said that because we're putting a lot of value in what this guy says, but still, networks and studios are scared to death of internet TV and people on the internet making their own content. Yeah, and I shared with her my frustration. I think I've shared here, like, mean, I'm not claiming to be the first person ever to do an internet show, a web series. Certainly not. But I was certainly one of, in that novice first wave, and more importantly, and you guys feel free to correct me, I don't think I've ever seen the webcams / talking heads format anywhere else. Where just, granted there's not much more to it than people talking to each other over their webcams, but that's also part of what makes it special. But I've never seen that anywhere else. And, one of my frustrations is that I kind of invented that format for a web series and have been doing it for years. Have done 2 very established shows, and then played around with it for numerous other mini projects, and there's no recognition for that. I mean, certainly, all of us who are watching and remotely care about this, there's that acknowledgement, sure, but I would think that something as unique and special as this should have a bigger stage to play on. That's my frustration. Especially when you hear, okay, yeah, the mainstream industry is scared of exactly this. Well, why? I can't even get an audience share where it matters. But I think I should. I think I deserve that. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I deserve it, and why shouldn't I think that I deserve it? It's confidence. It's the amount of work that gets put into it. So what are you gonna do? I really wasn't intending to talk about that. I wasn't really intending to talk about anything. It was a good weekend. I am not yet frazzled, although I think I ended up with a splendidly disabling stress headache last night. Or it could have just been a regular headache, but it felt pretty pretty stressful. My Saturday night. My Saturday vlog was of terrors was actually incomplete, because later that night we found out that Tripp hadn't filed his paperwork, and it's his fault. It's not his fault. It wasn't a big deal, and I tried to tell that to him right away. He, it seems like Vegas is kind of unique in that, an out-of-county minister needs to file paperwork, because Tripp does this. Tripp does this on a regular basis. And in the various places where he does this, he really has never had to file paperwork before to officiate a wedding. And what happened was that he went, upon closer inspection, when he was getting all his ducks in a row this weekend, he realized they need 30 days to process his paperwork and authorization so that he can officiate a wedding. That's according to the county, and obviously we are less than 7 days out now. So 30, that's not going to be an option. But logic dictated, this is what Sam and I understood, we're already paying the chapel minister. We can't have our wedding in the chapel without paying the chapel minister. So our logic was that, well, what does it matter who performs the ceremony? The chapel minister is signing and filing the paperwork. Shouldn't that be? So we should be fine. That was the logic. That's what I shared with Tripp Saturday evening. This was getting late in the evening, at least for us. But then I kept going back onto the Clark County website and looking at how it very clearly, plainly states if you are not authorized, you cannot perform weddings. You need to submit your application for authorization. So I went to bed Saturday night getting pretty frazzled and panicked. So Saturday ended up being the day of losing two sisters. My sister and Sam's sister both are not attending the wedding, and personal issues, frightening personal issues with Sam's sister, and that will have very far-reaching ramifications and have a very good chance of poisoning our trip, and then nearly almost having our entire ceremony completely fucked up. But then we did call the chapel the next day, and our original logic held up. We got them to say in their words, so they said it. It doesn't matter. Their chapel, their minister will. If we don't want Tripp to file the paperwork, and that's fine, because he's not authorized to. The chapel's minister will file the paperwork. He will and do all the official stuff, and they don't have any problem with Tripp doing the ceremony. So that was that felt like a big win, a very necessary win, and we were just like, oh, thank God, big huge sigh of relief, and I think Tripp experienced the same sort of because he seemed pretty panicked. He seemed pretty upset with himself. And rightly so, damn it. Rightly so. This is only going to happen once with me. So we need to get on the ball and stay focused. Get it right. Matty Ho sent me an email this morning. I need to respond to it. Although he says he's catching up with stuff. I don't know if that means possibly Jordan, if he's watching these. If he is, that would be awesome. I'd miss him. What would really be awesome? This would be awesome. This would be solid, because he's in Kansas right now on a contract project. What would be awesome is if he got in front of the camera and started doing this. That would be kind of cool. I would like to see Matt vlog and see what that's like. That would be interesting. And I think he's got material. If he just has to kind of get into that mode where he that's the thing. You got to get comfortable with setting up a camera and talking to it. But I think he's got material if he wants to share. And I think it would be really, really interesting. He would be a very interesting vlogger, and I think he would have a big audience too. But maybe that's something he's not even interested in. At any rate, and I really probably this won't upload until after I respond to his email. Won't finish uploading. He said, I hate to be the one to have to ask, but can I be your best man? And I'm going to tell him it's not for the lack of not wanting him as the best man, or him being the only person in Vegas who could be my best man. It's just we never planned. We never wanted to do we didn't want to have any of those trappings. And it's become an even more important issue, I think, now that now that Lisa can't be there, and her best friend Sherlyn isn't going to be there. I guess Coy kind of, because I did ask her that. She said that her cousin Coy would be that person, her maid of honor for her. But when her sister's going to be, you just don't want to create that sense of, you don't want to offend anybody, right? So it's and by at this point in the game, it's not so much that Matt, you're not the best person for the job, because you are, for sure. unless Slacktive decides to surprise me. Then it's going to be a toss-up. It's a total toss-up. But it's less about that and more about the fact that we didn't want the trappings, and more about that those options kind of sort of weren't there for Sam. So, like, I'm gonna rub that in her face, right? Okay. This is it. Final countdown. Stay creative.